This is an excerpt from an episode of Tokyo Game Life, a gaming slice of life podcast from Japan. To hear the full episode, subscribe to Tokyo Game Life on your favorite podcast app. Check the description for details. Let's chat games. Save Me Mr. Tako is a Game Boy-inspired action-adventure platformer originally released on the Switch and other platforms in 2018. After being delisted in 2020, a new version titled Save Me Mr. Tako Definitive Edition went on sale. We're nearing the Definitive Edition's 1-year anniversary and the upcoming physical release, so I wanted to highlight it. And who better to talk about the game than the person who made it? So guests, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Christophe Galati. I'm the creator of Save Me Mr. Tako and basically an indie game developer from France.
Thank you for joining me, Chris. We should start from the top. What are the origins of Save Me Mr. Tako?
Basically, I started creating games when I was 12 and using RPG Maker or RPG Tsukuru, as we say in Japan, a software a lot of people used. And I started by making Pokemon fan game and stuff like that. And I did that until I got my degree in high school. And then I went to study in game schools in Paris called Isart Digital. But there, I was not really motivated by the project during the second year. So I was kind of depressed because I have an internship where I worked for big brands like cheese brands and stuff like that to make serious games. And it wasn't funny at all. So I wanted to get back to the feeling I had when I was making passion project like I was doing with RPG Maker. And so, it was 2014. It was Game Boy 25th anniversary. And then I discovered Takoyaki. I ate Takoyaki for the first time in Paris. And I got the vision of an octopus character. So all of this merged in my mind and it led to Tako.
What games served as influences and inspirations for Save Me Mr. Tako?
Many games became references because when I create game, I try to pay tribute to an era of gaming that helped me growing up. So I started with the Game Boy. So I took basically Zelda Link's Awakening, Kirby Dream Land 2, For the Frog, the ball. I have to say, I don't remember the English name, but
For the Frog, the Bell Tolls?
Yes, this one. And many games like that. And also, I'm a very big JRPG player, so there's always a bit of Final Fantasy VI in my creation. But also I try to take inspiration in my own culture and life. So it talk about themes that really touch me, like tolerances and war and stuff like that. So it's kind of a big story packed in a kind of cute game.
Yes, the game has quite an expansive story. What made you want to implement a JRPG style story instead of a simpler one like mini Game Boy platformers?
Well, I create game to tell stories, so I know the kind of game is not the best one to tell story, but I wanted to do it anyway because if there was no story, I wouldn't have had the motivation to make the game. So I added a story, and that's what I'll keep doing in my future game too. But I wanted to tell something with Tako, and I'm glad I was able to do it.
When I played it, I immediately thought of the Ice Beam from Metroid. Making platformers with the Ice Beam is such a small part of that game, but the mechanic of shooting enemies to make platforms is more prominent in Save Me Mr. Tako. What fascinated you about this gameplay mechanic?
Well, I had the idea of an octopus character. I tried to think of what can an octopus do. So there was a few options, like the tentacle, so maybe a grappling hook, or then the camouflage, like changing his color or stuff like that. But as I was in a Game Boy type game, there was no colors. And the last one was the ink. So I stick with this one because I also played a lot of Metroid and. And I think I implemented it, and when it worked, I was it's fun. So I built on that. But very quickly I added the add feature, like the kind of the one we can have in Kirby, like having many powers. So that stayed the core of the gameplay.
The Game Boy style graphics look very authentic. What were some of the challenges you came across when trying to stay faithful to the look of the classic Game Boy titles?
Yeah, for me it was a big learning experience because I used to do pixel art, but I wasn't really good at it before. And doing the Game Boy style really taught me about palettes and shades, shadows, and stuff like that. But basically I made all the graphics using Microsoft Paint, so it was kind of a challenge. But doing the big background or bigger monster sprite was the hardest thing for me. But I'm glad I managed to do it. But also, the thing is, the world is kind of big, so it was a bit hard to not being too repetitive and not reusing too much the sprites. But as I implemented a color palette switch feature, it really helped, especially as in the definitive edition now there is an auto palette mode, so it kind of changed depending on the place where you are, like in Pokemon Yellow. So it kind of helped also to differentiate the environment. And also one of the things that first players of the original version thought, like it was hard for them to memorize which character was who because of the limited style. But for me, though, I did my best to give them all emotions and character, but also to fix that now. There is their name shown in the dialogue box now, also. So I guess it will be easier for everyone.
Let's talk about the definitive edition. In 2020, the original game was delisted by the publisher Nicalis. Was breaking off your relationship with them so you can release a new version of the game a difficult decision or something you were very confident in doing?
Well, it was something I couldn't avoid if I wanted to have my game patched, so that's what I had to do. But it was hard to republish it from the ground up and not like because we basically lost the all player fan base. So all the people who bought the original version had to buy it again to get the updates. But it was the only thing possible to do so in order to patch the game. So I did it. But yeah, I'm glad I got the opportunity to patch the game and make a version closer to my original vision with it.
The definitive edition reviewed much better than the original game. On Metacritic, the definitive edition's average is 10 points higher. Did you feel relieved that people responded so positively to the changes in this new version?
Yes, I'm very happy about that because obviously, as I told you, my goal was to tell a story, and unfortunately, in the original version, the gameplay difficulty made a lot of people not able to enjoy it or to go through. So it was very frustrating, and that's why I really wanted to be able to patch the game because I never intended to make a hard game. It's just like it's the first game I made professionally, and it's also very rooted in Game Boy. So I took a bit too much of the Game Boy aspects. But yeah, I'm glad I was able to fix it, and I hope like that with time more people will be able to discover the game and enjoy it because it's a bit hard to. As most of the players who bought it the first time didn't had to repay it, most of them haven't retried the new version, I guess. And even to catch attention of press, like making people review the game again was a bit hard. But but yeah, I really hope that with time, more people will discover the game and witness the story.
One addition I really like in the definitive edition is the color palette changing that you mentioned earlier. So, why did you want to implement this feature?
When I first released the game, like because I was expecting people to complain about some stuff, but people really complained about things I didn't thought about, like these palettes, and that's why I tried to take everything every feedback for most of them, and really apply it and make a a better version of the game. And yeah, having the auto palette mode was because at first I really wanted to make a GBC mode, but it was a bit too hard due to how the game was programmed. The middle ground was the auto palette mode, I guess. So at least it gave more personality and mood to the atmosphere and still look more colorful.
Yes, you mentioned Pokemon Yellow earlier, and when I was a kid, how the color palette would change based on which city you are, that was definitely mind blowing to me as a child.
Yeah, for me too. And also, yeah, because like the palette switch feature was really implemented very early on in the game development. It was one of the first thing I wanted to do because I also played a lot of Game Boy games on the Game Boy Color because I never owned the original Game Boy when I was young. I started with the Color, so but I played a lot of Game Boy game on the Color system, so that's why I wanted to have this feature to be able to change basically all the palettes that are in the game are the original ones from the Game Boy.
The Japanese release of the definitive edition actually hit a few days ago with a new localization by 8.4. How did that relationship come about?
Yeah, basically, when with the previous version was delisted, we had to cut some stuff from the game, including the original translation. So we had to make new translation in order to re-release the game in Japan. And I was working with Limited Run is now publishing the game digitally and physically, and they put me in touch with 8.4. I also met them, like I met John several times in Japan when I was there, like during game events and stuff. So it was
Right.
kind of, I was really happy to be able to finally work with him. and they did a really great job on the translation because there is improvement compared to the original ones because now the game support kanjis. In the original version, like I wanted to be very faithful to the Game Boy era, and when you play Game Boy game, there was no kanji
Right.
because the limited memory, and it was too hard to display many characters. But yeah, I also noticed that some players were having trouble like really understanding the story in Japan, also due to that because it's not we are not used to it anymore. So yeah, I did kanji. We did kanjis and I guess and I think the translation is more faithful to what the story want to tell.
The game is getting a physical edition in May thanks to publisher Limited Run Games. Was getting a physical version of the game one of your goals from the beginning?
Sure, yeah, it was like a dream for me to have one of my games like on my shelf,
Right.
like in a physical box, and it was one of the reason I started to work with Nicalis also in the first place because they
Mm.
are very good at doing physical editions. But yeah, it never happened. So I'm kind of glad like that 8 years after the beginning of the project, the physical version is finally happening. And also like I also always wanted to do merchandising. Like when I
Mm.
thought and created the game characters, I always have merch in mind, like making them more stand out and iconic to be able to like have figures or of plush or stuff with all the characters. So I'm really happy to finally have a plush and of Tako, and I hope like that in the future I will be able to do more merchandising with the game.
This is a Japan based podcast, so of course I have some questions about your time over here. A few years ago, you undertook an artist residency in Kyoto. How did you discover this opportunity?
Well, because basically when Tako was first released, I was kind of burned out
Mm.
because I spent 4 years making the game mostly on my own in my
Mm.
free time after job and then full time. And yeah, I wanted to do a new game, but I was like, do I really want to start overworking again and doing everything on my own? And like I really needed to get in better shape and get back with myself and think about what I really wanted to do artistically. So I saw one day because I watch a lot of documentary, and I saw on TV a documentary about Villa Médicis, which is basically the oldest and the more ancient artist residency because it was created by like Louis XIV, like King of France at Versailles.
Wow.
So it was, yeah, France have a big history of creating artist residency all over the world, and so this one was a documentary about the first one, and I was like, oh yeah, it seems very cool, like to be able, like to be as an artist to be able to have a space to where you are able to create your what you want and be like don't have to worry about money and stuff like that. And so yeah, I did research and I really thought like game developers were never accepted in those kind of place before. So like it was always like fine arts, architecture, movies, music, painting, stuff like that. And so yeah, I think yeah I should try. So I searched about artist residency and I found there was one in Kyoto called Villa Kujoyama. So I was when before applying I was kind of scared because like I became the youngest person ever accepted there because they asked
Wow.
for five years of experience and I was like I was 24 when I applied. So it was a bit yeah. It was a bit scary, but I applied, and yeah, they really saw the connection between my work and Japan, and they said, yeah, they accepted me. So yeah, I was able to go to Kyoto for 5 months and live in a good condition, and it really helped kickstart my new project.
What was the reaction when you told the artist at the residency that you were a game developer?
Yeah, it was something I was scared about at first because when you see like I watch a lot of Japanese drama and anime, and there is always this kind of trope where you are like the poor student in the rich school, and I was really scared that people will overlook games and say it's not really art and like why is here or stuff like that. But it really didn't happen. Like all the artists that were here with me were very open about game. They were not necessarily gamer, but they said, "Oh, it's about time. Like games are part of the culture, and it's important that it's represented." So I was very well welcomed. But yeah, the only few times like these comments were thrown at me, it was more when there were visits, like people visiting the residency for open days. There were some people asking why I was here, and like, oh, games are not art, it's like a mass culture, it's violent. And there were some people telling that, but they were not the artists, they were like in the public. But yeah, when I started talking to them about what game are, they like when we did open studio, I kind of did a small exhibition next to my games where I did like one shelf with Game Boy games, one shelf with Game Boy Advance game, and one shelf with DS games. And I was really like doing a timeline behind them and telling like how these games helped me and what they brought to me in my life. And yeah, people like when they passed by, they saw the old game and they were like, "Oh, that's Kashi. Oh, I remember this one." And it really helped them to remember like they played game and those games are still in their heart and they brought them something. But growing when they grew up, they forgot about them. So yeah, seeing those games there like exhibited like an art piece. For them, it was like, yeah, I remember them. So yeah, I guess yeah, it's art. Like they brought something to me. So I was kind of glad to be the first game developer there to kind of educate people about game as an art form. And I really hope that in the future there will be more game developers in those kind of art places.
I need to know, what was the best thing you ate in Kyoto?
I don't know. There are a lot of things I, I ate in Kyoto, but hard question. I wasn't prepared for that one because I really enjoy doing to the matsuri and eat like all kind of food in the that could be so fresh seaweed, fresh food, fried stuff, everything. Yeah, I basically one great memory I have in Kyoto. It was I discovered like a chocolate place, like a coffee chocolate place, but very traditional in the Machiya, and it was really like hidden in the suburb of Kyoto. And I found it, and yeah, the chocolate was very good. I think the trick was Nama chocolate or something like that, the name. And yeah, it became the place where I bought my dates. But yeah, it was really really good.
Do you feel bad about eating takoyaki now that an octopus was the hero in your game?
No, not really bad. Basically, I learned how to make takoyaki myself. So I have
Oh,
the
wow.
machine. I know how to do it. And yeah, when I was in the artist residency, I quite often make takoyaki for the other art residents.
Cool.
So even now, like my Japanese teacher who is also an artist who work with the artist residency. Like recently, like a Japanese artist was in Paris, in France, for in an artist residency. A Japanese artist from Osaka. And like my former teacher told me, you have to go there, you should go there and help her make takoyaki for them. Like I was called Takoyaki Shokunin. So it was really, yeah, I think I guess I'm good at making takoyaki. So if I can't make it doing games, I have a backup plan now.
A few years ago, you tweeted out a photo of you at Nintendo's headquarters saying you had an appointment there. What came of that?
Yeah, what came of that? But basically, I met the people who are in charge of the indie world,
Hmm.
indie branch of Nintendo Japan. So I talked to them about Tako and also the game I was working at the time. And basically, I have the right now. I can, if I want, I can port game to Switch without having a publisher.
Hmm.
So that always help. That's
Hmm.
always something appreciable. But yes, that's kind of yeah. I talk about my games. So and they said yeah, to tweet them up when I have news and when I have something to announce. So I'm kind of waiting to that day now to have the big announcement of my new game.
Do you have any plans to return to Japan after they open up the country?
Yeah, I really hope I can return somehow, like doing game events again. Because before going to that residency, I did Tokyo Game Show in 2016 and Beat Summit the year after, and it was really a good experience for me. And also when I was attending the residency, I organized a game jam there. So game jam is like a small event where people gather to create games together. And I organized one at the villa, and I really want to be able to make that again, like continue to make it like something that happen every year, like organizing the game jams at the villa. That will be cool. But yeah, and I have many friends there, so I kind of want to see them. And Kyoto is really a magical place, so yeah, a
Hmm.
part of you always stays there.
Right. You are currently working on a new title, Himitsu Project. What can you tell us about this game?
Yeah, but basically, Himitsu Project is the game I starting during the residency, and as I mentioned earlier, like my goal is to take specific era of gaming. So I did Game Boy with Tako, and with Himitsu, I'm doing Game Boy Advance. So yeah, it's and this time it's an action RPG. It's kind of Illusion of Gaia, Gaia Gensoki meets Golden Sun, basically.
Hmm.
And yeah, there will be a big story too, like in Tako.
Ah.
And this story is centered about the theme of secrets. So that's why the project name is Himitsu. It's not the final name, but right now it's
Hmm.
the code name. And yeah, it will talk about secrets, about how they turn into traumas, and how people in powers use those secrets and those lies to control the world, and how it turned into shadows and stuff like that. Yeah, the goal is to have a rich cast of characters, to have to switch them in battle and to adapt to the enemies, and also each of them will have their own trauma and battle to overcome in the story.
Will Tako make an appearance or have a cameo in Himitsu Project?
I can't really tell. You'll see when I have things to announce, but yeah, it's my own universe, so who knows?
Hmm. Final question. With the physical release, there's now a plushie of the game's hero, Tako. If you could pick one other character in the game to get a plushie, who would you pick?
Yeah, it's really hard, but maybe I guess it will be the Octopus Princess Azuria, because
Hmm.
octopus are easier to make as plushies, but
Right.
like the whole octopus collection will be good. But I like the human characters as well, and that's something the game suffered a lot during communication before in the past. Like people were only focusing about octopuses, but yeah, most of the game happened take place in the human world, so the human characters are really important too. So Prince Evan and Kid or Mireille or yeah, I would like to have like figures or also plushies of them. But for that we need partners, or I try to talk to Fangamer, so we'll see.
All right. Thank you, Chris, for joining me today. Where can people find you and where can people find Save Me, Mr. Tako?
Thanks for having me. So basically, you can find me in most social media under the alias at Chris Dinios. Like it's on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And you can find Save Me Mr. Tako on Steam and on Switch.
Great. And listeners, please check it out. It's definitely worth playing. Once again, thanks for joining me today again, Chris.
Thank you.